and I'm filming a video that I've been dreading having to do. I know I need to, and I knew I did from the start, that I had to let you guys know what happened, because it was so sudden. It was sudden for all of us. It happened over the course of like 3 weeks, which is crazy. I want to remember Key, first of all, so we can go through how life started with him, because it was a good life. We have a lot of really good memories, and I'm going to try and get through as much of this as I can without crying. But my eyes are probably looking teary already, because I had to make some bullet points so that I could remember the time scale of everything, and I had to recompose myself before filming this video, and it's already starting to come back again. We will begin. I've got my emotional support cushion. So in 2014 was when Key was born, on April 2nd. I was friends with Jamie at the time, and he had Sherpa, who was 4 years old. Jamie's sister had a litter of puppies. There were 6 of them, 4 boys and 2 girls. In the litter there was a wolf grey, but this one had already been chosen, and I've always loved wolves, and I thought, oh, it's a wolf grey, but he had already been chosen. So there was a black one in the litter, and black was also a really fond colour for me. He was my obvious choice then, and I'm so glad I didn't get the wolf grey, because I have no idea how life would have been different if I had been able to get the wolf grey instead of the little black boy with the little bit of blue in his golden eyes. Although they were dark brown when I met him. He had really dark brown eyes with a little patch of blue. But as he got older, they got brighter and brighter and turned amber coloured. I met Key when he was about 6 weeks old, and he was tiny, and he had his floppy ears. They hadn't perked up properly. It was a long drive back from the tippy tip of Cornwall to where I live in Devon. 2.5 hour drive. Jamie was concerned he was going to puke on me, but he didn't. He spent the entire time sitting in my lap, looking into my eyes, and then sleeping. So he was either staring me in the eyes or sleeping on my lap, wrapped in a little blanket. And it rained really heavily the entire drive. The first night, he slept like a baby. I had a crate. I'd never had a dog before, but I'd heard about crate training being a really good thing for them to get used to, so that if they had to go stay a night in the vets, that they would be used to being in a crate. I had a really, really big one, which was from Jamie. It was Sherpa's old crate. So he looked absolutely tiny in this massive, great big crate. So the first night was perfect. He slept like a baby in his crate in my bedroom. He was perfect. And I thought, this is easy. I'd never had a dog before. I didn't realise that having a puppy could be so easy. It wasn't. The subsequent week, he screamed every night. And luckily, the neighbours who are attached to our house, because we're in a semi-detached, they were on holiday that week, so they didn't have to hear the screaming. But after that 1 week, he was fine. I got him used to the crate by feeding him his food in there, making sure it was a safe space, and it definitely became his safe space. He loved going in his crate. He would sleep in there, the door open. That was his little man cave. I had a blanket wrapped around it so that it was nice and dark and cosy. He would always go in there to sleep. I spent most of his puppy months living my life in the conservatory, which you'd now know as his toy room, where I would sit on the sofa bed that was in there and with the door open so that he could go in and out to go toilet whenever he needed to. And Key, being his cheeky self, one time, I don't remember what it was, but I think I told him off for something, and his response, keeping in mind the back door was wide open, he stood in the middle of the room and he looked me dead in the eyes and he peed on the carpet. And he knew what he was doing. He had a big grin on his face. And then as soon as I said, oi, he ran out the back door to finish off. But that was my punishment for telling him not to do something. The first week Jamie came to visit, Key was terrified. There was this ginormous, great big husky Malamute in his house all of a sudden. And every time Sherpa came near, he would dart inside his crate for safety. But then he'd come back out again, go over to him a little bit and then run away. And that was the first visit. We didn't go anywhere. It was just to let them meet properly. Then the second visit was like a complete different puppy. He was a little bit bigger and he was a lot more confident, and he was chasing Sherpa around. At this point, Sherpa was the one who was shying away because he didn't know what to do with puppies. They were all a bit too crazy for him. So he just sort of minded his own business, but Key would like dive in and then dive out again and chase him around, and it was very cute. He was learning from him, following him everywhere. If Sherpa sniffed something, Key would sniff it too. If Sherpa weed on something, Key would weed too. On this first play date between Key and Sherpa, we took them to the woods and then the beach. Key would go to run to follow Sherpa, but then he'd stop a few meters from me and then look back, and then he'd come running back to me because he didn't want to go too far. And then down on the beach, he was scared of the waves, so I had to crouch down beside him and put my hand in the water to show him it wasn't scary, and he'd like gradually get closer. I had to do this with lots of different things to show him that they weren't scary things. A twig in a bush, a bin bag that moved on a walk, a roll of wrapping paper that fell down on top of his crate because it was leaning beside it. That's scary, so I had to show him it wasn't scary. And as soon as I touched the thing, I showed him it wasn't going to hurt him. He was fine with it then. I don't know the point where he started talking, but he loved to talk. Back then, I would take more photographs than videos. I don't have many videos of him when he was really small. And I also lost a load of them to the iCloud. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I lost a lot of footage from my iCloud from my phone. So I'm pretty sure I lost some videos that way. I don't have the first time he spoke video, and I wish I did. But then maybe I wouldn't have been recording at the time it happened anyway. I really got into my photography when he was younger. I took a lot of photographs of him, which is why there's so many more photos than there are videos. When he was, I suppose, around 6 months old, I had a Facebook page where I started posting videos of him doing his somersaults, because he started doing those very young. I don't know the exact age either, because I thought it was normal dog behaviour to be throwing yourself on the ground at high speed and rolling down hills. When I started posting the videos, I realised it wasn't normal. People were very shocked and surprised at him doing this. It wasn't until he was about 4 to 5 years old that I actually made our YouTube channel, because Facebook compresses videos and you lose the quality. I discovered that when I started to try and download some of the older ones that I'd lost from my phone. The file sizes were tiny and they were very pixelated from Facebook. So YouTube was a better place to store the videos because they kept their resolution. We'd been on YouTube for a year before we had the first viral video. And that video was our first viral one. And everything kind of went from there, really. He developed so many different quirks that were quite funny. Like his little side eye, his fear of my mum's phone. I don't know why, because she's always had my old phone. It was fine when I had it, but not when she had it. I ended up having to change the ringtone to a train noise in the hopes that he would stop associating that sound with my mum's phone, but it didn't help. He then realised that it was the train sound now. Every time she even reached for her phone, didn't have to make a sound. If she reached for it, he'd have to come to me for a cuddle. There's no reason. Absolutely no reason. No idea why. He also didn't like clicky sounds. Even the treat dispenser that we were given, he didn't like it because it clicked. Even though it spat out a treat for him, he didn't want it. We went on lots and lots of adventures. We did loads of coastal walks together. It was so much fun. He went swimming with seals once. That was scary. I wish he hadn't. I didn't expect him to, because he was scared of waves. He wouldn't go in water past his belly. But a seal on the edge of a beach spat water at him like an invitation, and he took it. He went out into that water and he swam with the seal, and he would not come back. In the end, he went out quite far to the edge of where the rocks were, and he stood up on this rock in the water, and he was too scared to get back in. It was too deep and he was tired. So I had to, in December, strip off to my underwear, get in the water, swim out to him, put his lead on, pull him back into the water and swim back to the rocks. It wasn't very far, but it was deep, and it was cold, but I didn't feel it. I think adrenaline was keeping me going. So put my clothes back on, soaking wet. And from that day on, he was never allowed to be off lead if there were seals near the beach, because they can be dangerous. It was a scary situation. I just never expected him to do it because he was scared to be in deep water and waves. So he was always very energetic, doing his somersaults at high speed, running lots. He loved to chase after his ball. I wish now that I had got him to calm down more. Sometimes we would go to the beach, which is a hike up a hill, hike down a hill, and then he'd be running around on the beach, then a hike back, and he'd still pick up his ball and want to play, and I'd have to take the ball from him and just say, go sleep, you're tired. I had to remind him that he just needed to have a break, and I wish I'd done that more now, because he did develop arthritis at, I guess, a young age. Around 5 to 6, I would say, he started to develop arthritis, because he's Husky Malamute. So he's not the medium size of an average husky, he's bigger. He's got a big broad chest and long legs. I don't know if that's considered really young or if that's average, but it felt like he was developing it quicker because of how athletic and energetic he was. I noticed on my camera recording at night that he was struggling to stand up on his back end. He's very, very slow and stiff. So I got him some joint supplements and started his hydrotherapy sessions and saw a huge improvement immediately. He was back to his energetic self again and no longer getting up stiffly anymore. Poor boy started to develop allergies. The first sign of that was a horrible pore infection he had in pore pad areas. It was very, very scary the first time that happened. I was sedate because I didn't know what was going on with his foot. And they deduced that he had allergies, because I was thinking maybe he had something stuck in his paw, like a grass seed or something. Basically, his paw was really itchy, so he licked it raw and caused an infection. So that's why he started to get this really red, swollen paw and ended up on antibiotics. Over the years, I tried lots of different things to mitigate the allergies. I tried an elimination diet. At a year old, I put him on raw food because the first year of his life, he had tummy troubles. He had what I called fountain poo, where it would literally pour out of him because none of the food I tried him on agreed with him until I put him on raw. And then he suddenly had regular, normal, tiny poos. With the elimination diet, I took him back to very basic food, cutting out anything else and just giving him single protein for an entire 2 weeks to try and get him not itching. But it didn't work, it didn't help. I tried different proteins, things like wild boar, venison, goat, ostrich, the things that they wouldn't normally encounter that are best for allergies because they haven't developed an allergy to them. The most common allergy is chicken. He was definitely intolerant to chicken and grain. Recommended vet diet of boiled chicken and rice. He couldn't have that. He would have to have white fish and scrambled egg because chicken is apparently different to egg. We did an allergy test. We didn't do a skin prick test because of how invasive it was. We have to shave a patch of fur and then dab on all the different allergens. So we did the slightly less scientific, slightly less reliable, but still gives you an idea, blood test for allergies. And he came back as having, I can't remember now, was it 18 different allergies from grass, multiple different trees, dust mites, crustaceans. And I even tried vet recommended specialty diets. That didn't last very long because that one went straight through him. I even got him an air purifier to help with the dust mites. I don't know if it helped with the dust mites, but it helped with his hay fever because he had that too. So at night he would cough throughout the night, but with the air purifier he stopped coughing in the night, which was amazing. In the end, the only thing that worked was a drug called Apoquel, which is, I've been told conflicting information about as to what it does, but it's basically interrupting the itch sensation, but it also can suppress the immune system, but then other vets say it doesn't, and then it's just kind of conflicted. But he ended up having to be on that. I tried multiple times to take him off of it because I didn't want him to be medicated all the time. But in the end, through me trying other things, he ended up having 3 pore infections and at least 3 ear infections and then rashes around his nose and mouth because of these allergies, and I couldn't keep him comfortable. I hated seeing him itchy and licky, and I've got multiple cameras to watch him around the house so that I could make sure he wasn't licking anything and making it raw and infected. So that's why I've got so many security cameras that I've managed to catch Key doing cute, funny things in. It was actually just so that I could make sure he wasn't licking himself to another infection. So we had to stick him on this Apoquel. I managed to reduce the amount of pills he would have. Instead of having 2 pills a day, he went down to 1 pill a day, and then he went down to 6 pills a week so that I was able to do 1 day off. And I just monitored how itchy he became. With the allergy medication, he was fine. He was himself. He was perfectly happy. No more itching, no more infections. He was a happy, healthy boy. But at around maybe 7 years old, I noticed that his left wrist has started to drop. The carpal joint was slightly more angled than it should have been. Taken up with his hydrotherapist, she just thought to keep an eye on it and just see how it went. And it was at this point that I remembered an injury he had had when he was probably a couple years old, where this room used to have a bed in it. It was my sister's bedroom, and Key had hopped up onto it. He's not meant to, but he had, and he jumped down onto a box that collapsed under him, and he came out of the room holding his paw up, limping. I didn't think much of it at the time. I didn't realise how destructive that injury had become. but I believe that's what caused his carpal drop to drop over time, because he had an injury there that had weakened it. It started to drop, but it was not a big issue. He was okay around 7 years old. It wasn't until he turned 10, so last year, that I noticed it had dropped considerably more, to the point where he needed support because it was impeding his ability to walk comfortably. So that was when I bought his first leg brace. And we went through 2 different types. The first one would not stay on his leg at all. It was like his leg was made of water. It just slipped straight off. The second one, he would scuff his paw on purpose. When you put like a bootie on a dog, they would normally pick their paw up a bit higher to stop feeling the boot on the foot. But for Key, he would literally scuff his claws along the floor, to the point where he made them bleed one time. I ended up having to make him braces myself, ones that would fit more snugly, stay in place properly, and less likely for him to scuff his foot. I ended up making 3 braces in the space of 1 month, because he would shred the bottoms of them, but it helped him. He didn't like wearing them. He wore them because he trusted me and he just let me put them on, but he would have preferred not to wear them. But I know that if he didn't, he would have been in more pain for the rest of the day. Supporting his leg for the walk meant that he was more comfortable, and then he didn't wear it in the house. We even ended up booking him in for 3D printed leg braces that would be custom made to his leg. And I was going to do both legs, because the right leg, because it was taking most of his weight now, was starting to drop as well. So I was going to get that one supported, and hopefully it wouldn't get any worse. The appointment was booked for February, so we did have to cancel that, but it was planned and it was going to happen, but it didn't happen. In September, we took Key to the stem cell vet in Somerset. So that was in hopes that stem cells might improve the ligaments in his wrist, and that was based on whether or not the drop was caused by calcification or not. But after they did the exam and checked his joint, they determined that it wasn't calcification, it was a stretched ligament. So stem cells wouldn't help. Because they did pre-anaesthetic bloods to check whether he would be okay for an anaesthetic for the treatment, they discovered that his liver levels were slightly elevated. Not a huge amount, but enough to make them wonder if it was something that could be made worse with anaesthetic. So we decided not to go ahead with stem cells or PRP, which was another thing that we could have done, even though the stem cells wouldn't have helped. The PRP would have helped with arthritis, but we didn't do it because of the raised liver levels and not knowing whether or not things could be made worse from being given lots of different drugs. So we went home with the knowledge that we should get his liver levels tested again to keep an eye on them, find out what's going on, and get an ultrasound. So in October, we got him an ultrasound. He had to be given trazodone, gabapentin, I think it is, to make him sleepy enough to do the ultrasound, so that he wasn't fully sedated, because we didn't want to do sedation because of the liver levels. So we had an ultrasound, and he had thorough blood tests to see what was going on with his liver, and the ultrasound came back clear, perfectly fine, and nothing out of the ordinary there. Everything was the right size, there was no masses, there was nothing bad going on. The blood tests actually showed that his liver levels were slightly better than they had been at the stem cell. So everything was looking okay. I mean, they were still elevated, so we wanted to do something about them, but they had improved slightly. He was starting to get a bit more thirsty, but with how his liver levels were improving, the vet looked into it and discovered that Apoquel, the allergy medication, can make dogs more thirsty. So we weren't too concerned about that at the time. But we did start him on milk thistle. Silybum and Samei, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing either of them right, but they're 2 ingredients that are used to help with raised liver levels to bring them back to normal. And milk thistle has silybum, so we were using that as it was something that I'd known other dog people to use. We had to wait 2 months from starting the milk thistle to do another blood test to see whether it was helping or not. Around the start of January, he started to go off of his food. He was still eating breakfast and lunch, but he started to leave some of his dinner. Not all of it, so just maybe a quarter of it to start with. But he'd done this in the past before where he would not be quite as hungry that day, so he'd just leave a little bit. And then the next day he'd eat it again. So I wasn't too concerned at the start, thinking that it was just him being his normal fussy self, because he was still excited for his lunch and still eating his breakfast. And then the next day he'd eat his dinner, all of it. But then the day after that he'd leave a bit, and it gradually became more and more dinner being left. So half of his dinner was left, and then 2/3 of his dinner was left. So I contacted the vet and I asked her about it and thought, could it be the milk thistle? Because I looked into it, and milk thistle can cause loss of appetite, and also it's a supplement that goes straight into his meals and it can taste funky, so maybe he was just making his dinner taste weird. He'd been on the milk thistle at this point for almost 2 months. So she recommended stopping milk thistle and seeing how he went for a couple of weeks to see if he improved. There were moments where I thought he was improving. I made videos say encouraging him to eat steak and things, and he would eat it and he was excited for it, and then he was back talking to me again because he had started to stop speaking as often. But then he was fine again, and it was like up and down all the time, and I didn't know if he was better or if he wasn't better. And this went on for about 2 weeks-ish of it seeming like he was okay but then not okay, and in the back of my mind thinking, well, the ultrasound that Rioni just had was fine, and his blood test that he had was improving, everything was looking fine, so what was causing him to be off of his food? So towards the middle of January we stopped his Apoquel and switched him over to a different allergy medication, which was an injection that you'd have to go back for every month, called Cytopoint, which is okay to have with raised liver levels, whereas the Apoquel was not. We stopped the Apoquel because of that reason and went to Cytopoint. And I noticed that his drinking had started to improve. He wasn't drinking quite as much quite quickly after. Around this time we did another blood test, so it was almost 2 months after the first big blood test and starting the milk thistle, so we could see whether the milk thistle had helped. And his ALT was completely back to normal. That was the liver-specific most concerning part of the blood test. And the other two were also almost back to normal. They were lower than they had been, so things were improving. So this is getting into the 3rd week of him being off of his food, but it was now getting a lot worse, where he really wasn't excited for dinner anymore. He wouldn't scoot his bum round up against the washing machine to get ready to have his dinner. He wouldn't even come into the room when I was preparing food, and when I was finished and called him, it would take him a moment to even get up and come and have a look. And he'd look at his food and he'd look at me like I'd just given him the worst slop he'd ever seen, and he'd sniff it and then he'd look at me and then he'd just sort of not be interested in it. Some days he'd just walk away from it, other days he would take a few minutes, he'd have a drink and then he'd come back to it and maybe eat a little bit. He just wasn't into his dinner at all. And then he started to go off of his lunch as well, so the excitement he had for his little treat ball was gone, getting very, very concerning at this point. And so we rushed him back to the vets and we had a urine test. The vet said lots of different test options, and I didn't realise that what we were testing for was just his kidney function. Otherwise I would have got another blood test done for his liver again. But that came back as being perfectly fine, kidneys functioning fine. After that, results came in. I took him the next day back to the vets again to get the blood tests taken for his liver again, because each time they did a full body exam. This was the first time he actually winced in pain when his stomach was pressed. Very concerning that he was suddenly feeling pain there. Being Sunday the following day meant that we wouldn't get the results until after the Monday. The vet gave me an appetite stimulant to try and help him to eat. After we'd finished at the vet's, we took him straight to the beach, and he was excited. He was really enjoying his time on the beach. He sniffed another dog, and I think we walked around for about 25 minutes, and he looked happier. He hadn't looked that happy in a while. When we got home, I gave him the appetite stimulant and I saw a spark of him again. He was excited for his lunch again, bouncing around, and I saw a smile on his face which I hadn't seen in a little while. So he ate his lunch and he ate lots of food, and everything I gave to him he would eat. And I thought, wow, maybe this is it. He's feeling better now. But Sunday morning, 5 a.m, he threw up all of the food he'd eaten the previous night. That was another worry. I phoned up the vets to get him seen again. It was Sunday, so out of hours vet. We had to travel further. They did the same body check and he winced again when his side was prodded. The vet gave him an injected pain medication straight into his muscles to help with the pain, and gave him an anti-sickness injection that should have given him some of his appetite back. He said that that was what they generally give to dogs that are unwell and not eating properly, but it didn't help. He still wouldn't eat his lunch. He didn't want to eat his dinner. He didn't want to eat anything. Just getting him to eat some biscuits was difficult. I obviously couldn't get him to eat his supplements that he needed for his arthritis to keep his joints from hurting, so he was getting stiffer and more uncomfortable. He slept really deeply, which he's never slept before, and he would spend most of his time laying in his bed, not really moving around much. Monday morning came and he was worse still, so I got him into the vet at 9 a.m. to have them check him and admit him as an emergency. This is where I can start crying. Come on, hold it together. So she got him admitted to the main vets for another ultrasound and more blood tests, because the results from the previous test done on the Saturday hadn't come back yet. So they were going to do them in-house in the vets and do as many blood tests as they had slides for. He winced again in pain when she prodded him, and she deemed him an emergency. So we went and got him in, got him for the ultrasound, and I was walking on the beach with my mum when I got the call. And the ultrasound this time was not clear. He came back with a mass right by his kidney and his adrenal gland, and it was pressing on his organs. And there was sludge in his gallbladder. All of this wasn't there in October when we did the first ultrasound. She said it was located right next to lots of blood vessels, and that it had likely spread through the blood vessels and further. I was thinking back at his face the last week, where he just looked so unhappy with his ears pinned back and his eyes half closed, and I realised just how much pain he had been in and that he was hiding it as best he could. Oh, right, the tissue's coming out now. I had to wait for him to come round from the anaesthetic so I could go and collect him. And she talked me through everything that she'd seen and everything that could be done. She said that they could refer him for a CT scan because they didn't have the facilities there, but that could take days to get referred. And then after that, it could take days to be referred to oncology, days where he would have been in pain, unable to eat, unable to take his supplements for his arthritis. He was just getting worse, eating less, looking more uncomfortable, doing less, sleeping more. So we were bringing him home and decided to take him to the beach so that he could enjoy the sand and the sea. But he couldn't walk very far, and he just looked up at me like he didn't want to do it anymore. It was just a look on his face. Normally at the beach he'd be more interested in everything else around him because he loved it there, but he was just looking at me. So we went up off the beach and just sat down on a bench for a moment, and I just hugged him. We came home and he wouldn't get out of the car. The Friday, the Saturday and the Sunday before, he wouldn't get out of the car either. He didn't want to come in the house, but I got him out. I got him in the house, and I was starting to realise why he didn't want to, because when he's on the walk he was full of adrenaline and it was probably masking some of the pain. But when he came home, he knew he would just be laying in his bed and just uncomfortable and sleeping. And on that Monday, he would not get out of the car. He completely refused. He grumbled. He was not getting out of the car. So we sat in the back seat of my mum's car for 5 hours, just laying in the sling car seat cover together with the door open so that he could smell outside. And every now and then I'd ask him, can we go inside the house now? And he wouldn't get up. No attempt to sit, nothing. I told my family that we would have to say goodbye to him. My sister Louise and her husband came over. It was starting to get dark, and I thought seeing them he would be excited and he'd get up and out of the car, but he didn't. He barely lifted his head up. I kept saying, do we have to let him go? Because I didn't want to. I called Jamie and I told him he needed to come over now. So Jamie got in the car immediately and he drove 2 hours to us. By the time he arrived, it was dark. And I thought, this will get him out of the car. I selfishly wanted one more night with him inside and thinking that Jamie coming over would get him out of the car. But he didn't. He didn't get up. He didn't speak. It's the first time I'd seen him do his flat ears though. When he saw his face, he was happy to see him, but he still wouldn't get out of the car. And we knew that this was the end. Jamie could see how bad he was too. He didn't realise until he was there. So the three of us drove to the out-of-hours vets because it was 7:30 by this point. He actually got out of the car at the vets. I think adrenaline of a new place he thought he was going for a walk. So I thought maybe I'd made the wrong choice. Maybe we should go home. But I knew that if we went home, that he would be in pain, unable to eat, unable to take his supplements for his arthritis. I cuddled him the whole time. You know they don't live a long life, but nothing prepares you for making that kind of decision and for how much it hurts to see them gone. And you feel like at the end there, was it worth all the pain when you're hurting so much? But it was. It's been 2 months now and I've been able to dry my eyes and remember the good times, and all of the support online from you guys has been amazing. The first time I filmed this video, I started crying from like the first few words I said, so how much of this video I got through without crying is a testament to the amount of healing I've managed to do in the space of 2 months. But I couldn't get through that last bit without it pouring down my face. So I'm sorry if I made you cry too. And I want to say sorry that it was so sudden, because it was sudden for all of us. It's hard looking back at those last few videos where I thought he was getting better, when I know now that he wasn't. And with cancer, there's ups and downs, and it can be so fast. Like I said, in October, his ultrasound was completely clear, and his blood tests were getting better. His liver was improving. And then over the space of 3 weeks, he got bad. So 2 weeks starting to go off his food, and the last week was when I realised something was seriously wrong, because that was when things really went downhill very fast. And I know that I couldn't keep him going for my sake. As much as I wanted more time, it wouldn't have been fair to him when he couldn't eat properly, he couldn't take his supplements, and he was in pain, and I could see it on his face. And every time I doubt my decision, I remind myself of that last week, of how bad he was. And every time I think about how I should have done more, should have known sooner, I remind myself, just 3 months prior, he had a clear ultrasound. A few weeks prior, he had better blood results. That it happened so fast that we couldn't see it coming. And in that respect, at least it was only a few weeks that he was in a bad way. 1 week where he was really uncomfortable, and I didn't let him suffer. I've actually recently been able to look through our old videos without crying, to look back on them fondly, putting together videos of the times Keys tried to make us laugh, because that was many. He's had a good life. He's made many people very happy, and our videos were always there to make you laugh and make you smile. I never liked sharing the down parts of life, because our channel was always meant to be uplifting and an escape from sadness. I'm sorry to have caused you all so much sadness, and I'm sorry that I've had to bring that all back for myself and for you guys to make this video, but I know so many people wanted to know what happened to him, and I did try to do it after a week so that I could get it done and out of the way, but I couldn't get through it, and I didn't want the majority of this video just to be me crying, so that's why I had to wait 2 months. I think most people take a little while to process everything and be in a state of mind where they can talk about it. But hopefully this helps you guys to know and to understand why it happened so suddenly. Sorry, I dropped my pillow. Continuity of this video is out of the window. Thank you for being such a huge part of our lives. Thank you, Key, for giving me the life that I have. He changed my life in so many ways. He made it so much better. He filled my life, and he's left a void behind. And I have everything we built together. My business wouldn't be what it is without him. Thank you guys for wanting a small piece of him with the things that I make. And I know I'll get people asking, because I have already, about whether I would get another dog. And I am like 90% sure that I would. At the start I was like 100% no, I can't go through this pain again. But when you've had time to heal, and instead of your mind mostly being on all the pain and the loss, and instead you're thinking about all the fun times and all the love and all the things that you miss seeing, I do feel like I will get a puppy, a husky puppy at some point. Most probably a husky Malamute puppy, to be as close to Key as I can. And I would hope that they might pick up maybe one of his quirks that he had, so that I can see a tiny bit of him in whoever joins my life. I would share videos of this puppy with you guys, because I can't keep all that love to myself. All the fun and the happiness that they bring. but it won't be on Key's channel because that's his forever. But it would be on our second channel, which is currently titled Kirsch and Vu. So if you'd like to see that in the future, then be subscribed there. And if you would like to see vlogs, because if I do have a puppy in my life, then they will, like Key was, always be a part of my daily life. And that would be on Jodie Poo. But Key's channel, Kirsch the Stunt Dog, will always be there for you. I will never get rid of it. I will never remove any videos. It will always be him. So you can go back there and watch all of his videos over and over again. And I will keep posting some videos there for now, while I still got things to share. Key was almost 11 years old. April 2nd. Oh, my nose is so stuffy. I'm going to end the video without any tears. My eyebrows are sweaty. Do your eyebrows sweat when you cry? Or is that just me? I won't do my regular outro because that's not fitting here. But I want to say thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for loving Key. Thank you for your support and words of comfort. They have helped. And thank you for watching our videos, re-watching old videos, watching my silly little vlogs in the office. I know those aren't the most exciting things. And lastly, thank you, Key. Thank you so much for watching that video. I know it was very hard. I know everyone is grieving for him, but I hope it helps you to understand everything that happened. It's now probably 2 weeks later, I think, since I recorded that video, because it took me a while to edit it. So I knew it was going to make me cry all over again. And I have something to share with you. I didn't really want to do it in this video. It didn't feel right, but I wanted to make sure that everyone that would like to know about this would know about it. So I thought the best place would be on this video where the most amount of Key lovers would be. So I wanted to share our little keychain plushie. This was something we planned to do for a very, very long time because his name, Kirsch, Key for short, a keychain was a natural thing that we would have liked to have made, and I just never got around to doing it. I was in contact with Makeship at the end of last year about making a keychain, so before I knew anything was wrong with him. And I had sent them my design, and it was this little guy, little legs, and an extra fluffy tail. When he went, I wasn't sure if I was going to make them because it didn't seem right. But then I asked you guys whether you would like the opportunity to have one last plushie of him, and if you would like the keychain because of his name. And it was a resounding yes, he would love to have that. And to be honest, I wanted this for myself too. This is with Makeship, so it's a campaign that will run for, I think, 21 days. Once the campaign is over, the chance to get this will be gone. So please, if you would like one, make sure you go for the campaign, because this really will be the last Key plushie we ever have made. In order for these to be made, we need to sell at least 500. So it's not the 200 that you have to sell with the normal size plushies, because these ones are actually cheaper, and we need to sell 500 for them to actually be made. Hopefully we can get 500, hopefully many more, so that all of you that have always wanted one that could maybe not afford to get one of the full-size plushies, maybe you can get one of these. You can change the keyring on it. It's got a little loop on the top, so you can put whatever you would like on there, and then you can hang him off your bag. It's even got a little extra hook to attach something to. I can imagine a little waffle on there. How cute would that be? Oh, I could make some. I could make some little clay waffles that could go on them. I wouldn't be able to put them on the ones that you buy because you buy directly from Makeship, but I could sell some little waffle charms that you could buy extra to add on. That would be cute. This is our last Key plushie, and I hope you love him as much as I do. He's very, very soft. Got the extra soft fluff. So from today, you can order a key ring. A key ring at last. I wish I'd done it a long, long time ago, but we have it now. Go to the link in the description at Makeship to order yours. I also put it in the pinned comment. Remember, only 21 days, and then they are no longer available. And we need to sell 500 to get them gone. And I'm sorry I'm putting it on the end of this video, but honestly, I felt like this was the only place it should go really, in order for the most people that would like this to see it. So if you don't, that's fair enough. You don't need to get one, but if you would like to, limited time available. This will be coming on every trip I go. I'll have to go on my bag so that I've always got key with me. No tears. We're not ending this video on tears. So if you would like to get yours, head to the link in the description. Make sure you get yours. I'm going to be ordering a few for myself. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.